Hello again, everybody. You can see I've got a little something patched up here running in the background. And I got two new modules. These will probably be the last of new stuff for a while. This is kind of all the stuff I ordered at the same time. It just came in at different times. So here on the left, we have the DivKid Oct, which is like some drifting LFOs. They're sort of synced on the inside. I honestly don't know that much about it, except that I saw some really cool videos, and I was like, I need some modulation sources. Sounds pretty awesome. Let's get it. And then here we have the Expert Sleeper's Disting, which I think is pretty crucial to have with a small rack like this when I'm just getting started out. Kind of the intention is to be able to use a variety of the options that it has, and then as I find myself using the same one over and over, then that'll be the next module I buy, and then that'll free up the disting to be something else, and just kind of slowly evaluate. That way I can not buy a ton of modules all at once and still have lots of room for exploration. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this patch apart, and we can go about maybe building up a new one. So let's get going here. Okay, that's pretty good. I always actually like listening to the act of tearing down the patches too. It's always so kind of, I don't know, cathartic, and you get some interesting sounds along the way too as well. But before we get started, maybe building a new patch and seeing what we can come up with today, I wanted to kind of go over some interesting things that I learned once I got my DivKid Oct here. Some interesting things with the Chipz that don't quite work exactly how I expected, and some things that I had read about in the manual, but I don't think I quite took it to understanding, and I spent a bit of time tinkering to figure out over here also with this quad VCA. Yeah, let's maybe start with that, because that's the simplest thing. I did know is that the outputs are mixed down to the fourth channel, or actually to each subsequent channel. So like if nothing's plugged in and then I plug into here, I'll get both of these coming through because they're mixed down all into that one channel. Same if I go here, or if I go here. Now, if I go to just one, I should only get one. You see, because when you plug in, you then break the connection from that one. So it's no longer mixed down and you only receive what you're getting. So that I knew, I understood, made sense. The part that I didn't quite understand is this. The CV inputs are also mixed down, which struck me as a little odd. So let me just take this gate, or this envelope. Okay, so now we can hear channel 1 is being enveloped, right? But you can actually see here, channel 2 is tracking that same envelope. So even though I don't have anything plugged in here, channel 2 is being enveloped as well. In fact, let's just unplug channel 1. So, you hear that? I didn't really expect that. I didn't expect the control voltage to be mixed down. And so, for a while, I was getting weird outputs and stuff that just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And so I found that in order to stop that, I could just plug a dead thing in. And now, channel 2 is no longer, that breaks the cycle, or the normal, just like this. So, I don't know, it's a little bit of interesting thing that I think I had overlooked in the manuals, and probably worth looking out for if you're into this kind of stuff. Another interesting thing, we'll turn this off, has to do with the control voltages, inputs, and outputs of, inputs into the VCOs here and the outputs of these LFOs. So one thing I wanted to do now that I have some more modulation sources is start playing with doing filter and pulse width modulation a bit more. So let's get a sound going. Okay, so here we are, channel 1. You can hear it's just a square wave going through this filter. And what we can do is we can take this LFO that I have set to just sine wave, put it in here. Now we can hear that filter cutoff frequency sliding back and forth, back and forth. You can make it faster, all kinds of cool stuff, right? Now, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug channel 2, just for demonstration purposes. So right now we only have channel 1 coming out. And as such, going in here has no effect, obviously. Except, when I decided I wanted to try to use the new DivKid oct as a modulation source. And this is what I found. First of all, you can hear at the upper end it gets pretty wild. Way more intense modulation than coming from this LFO. And so, but that's still pretty interesting sounding, so nothing to be too concerned about there. But where it got super weird is that I was doing some modulation on channel 2 and hearing that on channel 1. So here's the example. You can hear at an upper end of that pulse, there's some bleed over happening. That's really confusing and was making for some like really noisy stuff. I mean, I was able to get some cool effects out of it, but wasn't really able to do what I wanted to be doing. And so that got me kind of wondering, like, okay, so what's causing this? And my best guess at first was that the peak-to-peak voltage of this is much higher than the peak-to-peak over here, and we're getting some kind of over-excitation of whatever's going on inside of there. So I tested that out. So I'll take this input and come from the oct, and then we'll go from channel 3. That's the same effect as going straight in. And as I slowly attenuate it down to a lower level, we can get rid of it. There we go. And so now if we plug this in here, we're kind of in a very similar sounding sweep as what we were getting out of this LFO. That's interesting that the peak-to-peak voltages of these different modules would be so different that they would cause wild fluctuations like that. But it also does create some interesting opportunity for cool effects. What I think it really means right now, while I'm focused on learning things in kind of a more controlled way, is that I won't really use the oct to control these unless I'm running through right now my VCA, because that's all I have. It does seem like a little bit of a waste of 2 channels of this VCA, but I'll do that maybe, or I'll just focus on using these to drive these and use the oct to drive other things. It also highlights the fact that I need some utilities because I don't have good attenuators without taking up channels in my VCA. So maybe that'll be my next purchase, is some attenuation type things, or I don't know if you have any other suggestions for ways to deal with this, but that seems like the best way that I can think of. Anyway, and so that also works the other way around. Like if I were listening to channel 2 and oscillating the filter cutoff frequency on channel 1 using just the raw output from the oct, then we start to get that same bleed over in that channel 2. Create some very strange effects, but you know, strange effects are cool, so I'm not too mad at it. I'm just glad that I figured it out.